The Zeigarnik Effect. Why does the brain hate unfinished business? There was a woman named Evelyn who lived in a small house at the edge of town. Surrounded by towering oak trees and a garden she never quite finished tending. Every morning, she would wake with the best intentions. Today, she would finally plant those last few bulbs, trim the overgrown hedges, maybe even repaint the old wooden bench where she liked to sit in the evenings. But somehow, by the time the sun dipped below the horizon, the tasks remained undone, nagging at her like a song stuck halfway through its melody. Evelyn wasn't just a gardener with unfinished projects. She was a woman haunted by loose threads. The novel she had started writing years ago still sat in a drawer, its final chapter unwritten. The apology she owed her sister lingered in her throat, unspoken. Even small things, an unanswered letter, a half-knitted scarf, seemed to whisper to her in quiet moments, tugging at her attention like restless children. She told herself she was just busy, that life got in the way. But deep down, she knew the truth. These unfinished things weren't just tasks. They were weights. One evening, as she sat on that unpainted bench, staring at the half-tamed garden, her neighbor, an elderly man named Henry, ambled over with a cup of tea in hand. He had a way of appearing when people needed him most, though he'd never admit it. "You look like you're carrying the world," he said, settling beside her. Evelyn sighed. "I just can't seem to finish anything. It's like my brain won't let me move on until everything's done, but I never actually do it." Henry took a slow sip of his tea, then nodded. "Ah, the curse of the open loop." Evelyn frowned. "The what?" Henry chuckled. "The mind hates unfinished business. It's like an itch it can't scratch. Ever notice how you remember the movie you walked out on better than the one you saw all the way through? Or how that unresolved argument keeps replaying in your head?" Evelyn's chest tightened. She thought of all the things left hanging in her life, the words unsaid, the projects abandoned. "Why does it do that?" she asked. Henry set his cup down. "Because the brain is a relentless accountant. It keeps a ledger of every, almost, every, not yet. And until those tabs are closed, it won't let you forget." That night, Evelyn lay awake, Henry's words echoing in her mind. She thought about the way her unfinished tasks seemed to hum in the background of her thoughts, stealing focus from the present. The next morning, she made a decision. She wouldn't tackle everything at once, that was too overwhelming. But she would close one loop. Just one. She pulled out the half-knitted scarf, the one she'd started for her granddaughter 2 winters ago. Her fingers, stiff at first, soon found their rhythm, and as the final stitch was tied, something unexpected happened. A quiet release, a lightness. It wasn't just about the scarf. It was about proving to her own mind that she could finish what she started. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn returned to her ledger of unfinished things, one at a time. Some were small, like finally replying to that old friend's letter. Others were harder, like sitting down with her sister and speaking the words she'd held onto for years. With each completed task, she felt the weight lessen, the mental chatter quiet. She even returned to her novel, not with the pressure to finish it, but with the curiosity to see where it might go. One afternoon, as she put the last coat of paint on the garden bench, Henry wandered over again. "Looks like you've been busy," he said, admiring her work. Evelyn smiled. turns out, the brain doesn't just hate unfinished business, it loves the relief of closing the loop. Henry nodded. And now that you've started closing them, you'll find it harder to leave things undone. The mind learns what you teach it. Evelyn sat back on her freshly painted bench, looking at her garden, still imperfect, still growing, but no longer a source of unease. She realized something profound. Unfinished business isn't just about tasks. It's about the stories we tell ourselves. The "I'll get to it later" becomes "I never did." And those words shape how we see our own capability. But every time we complete something, no matter how small, we rewrite that story. We prove to ourselves that we are finishers. The Zeigarnik Effect, that peculiar quirk of the brain that clings to unresolved things, isn't a flaw, it's a reminder. A nudge from our own minds, urging us to tie up loose ends not for the sake of productivity, but for peace, for the quiet joy of knowing that some things don't have to linger in the shadows. They can be brought into the light, finished, and released. And in that release, we find not just relief, but a deeper trust in ourselves. So what's your unfinished business? Not the towering, overwhelming list, just one thing, one loop you can close today. Because the brain may hate unfinished business, but it loves the freedom that comes with letting go. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.